Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. It's Tuesday evening. Here we are in our new location for viewers at home. We are no longer at the Hy-Vee Club Room, so don't go there looking for us. You can go there to get your ice cream, but you will have to come somewhere else for Toastmasters. At the end of this video, we do have a number that you can call. I will be on the other end of that number, and I will help you get into our new location, which is a private building that is secure. So we do need to make a couple of arrangements for that. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills. I am going to mention something that I researched a little bit this week. It's the role of the audience. You may remember Janet last week talked about making eye contact, but how that can be a little challenging when nobody's looking up and everybody's looking at things. So I wanted to check on that because Pathways is new and it's online and who knows what people are supposed to be doing sometimes. But in fact, it is what we teach here at this club, which is that as an audience member, you are a vital role player in supporting whoever is up here at the front as a speaker. So we want you to be looking at them and giving them attention, giving them energy, letting them connect with you. And then afterwards, we always have our 2 minutes. You can write down your evaluation at that time. The only person who should be looking down, and I got this from Toastmasters, is the person who's evaluating whatever that piece is. And if you have a role like a counter, a grammarian, or a timer, if you have to take a quick look down and mark something, but basically, we can all do that, and we can mark and look up. Okay, so that was the point, and that actually made me feel a lot better to find that out. We are going to have a couple of extra pieces tonight, so tonight's meeting is going till 9:15. Terry is going to be giving a speech. I'm giving a speech. We're also starting our officer review for upcoming officers. We have a lot we want to get done, and last but not least, best always, is we want to hear a few remarks, a little bit of feedback from our new District 19 Tall Tales champion! Aaron Russell. Dan says, "Who is it?" I was getting there, yes. So we do want to hear from Aaron because that was such a great accomplishment. And speaking of Aaron, I think we'll go ahead and get right into our meeting right now. And Aaron Russell is our Toastmaster for the day. Please help me warmly welcome Aaron. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to mention something that was a little weak. Okay, just the clapping. So we want to make sure, because when we have a little fewer numbers for people out and about, that means those of us who are here, we have to really go for quality. Okay, so that means this is part of supporting the audience, speaker as well. So just want you to be really ready to clap, and unfortunately I can't do it, so I have to do the clean wave. No, not really that one.
Thank you, Madam President.
Can you pass this to Aaron?
I don't know what that is.
May I see
The
your
theme for
menu,
today's
please?
meeting is in the year 2043. And we have a quote for today. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards, by Soren Kierkegaard. So let me introduce our roles for today's meeting. First we have our timer, which is Beta Royale. Thank you.
Good evening.
Tonight is the timer. I'll be timing all the portions of the meeting that I can. We have our timing lights. For the prepared speeches, we have two different prepared speeches. Jean will be 5, the green, 6 minutes, the yellow, and for the 7-minute mark, red. And she'll have 30 seconds to wrap up. Terry Harnish will be 7 minutes for the green, 8 minutes for the yellow, and 9 minutes for her speech. And she'll have 30 seconds to follow up and finish to qualify. Our evaluators are generally 2 to 3 minutes, although our table topics can vary.
No table topics.
No table topics. So we won't have table topics. And so I guess that's everything I need to talk about.
Can you give a report?
And I will give a report at the end.
Thank you, David. And now we'll hear from our grammarian, Ms. Stover.
My job is to keep track of language used, any misinformation about language being used, and give a brief report at the end of the meeting, and for somebody to give in the sentence, the word of the day. The word of the day is resilience. Means being flexible, hardy. Thank you. For example, living in Iowa builds character to live in hot, muggy summers and cold, clammy winters.
Okay.
I thought I'd bring it into like real life.
Thank you, Dean. And next we have our ah counter, which for tonight is Peter Armstrong. Whoops.
Whoops, there goes the one. The ah counter is responsible for writing heard, or I should say, taking note of people's use of filler words. And filler words such as or ah, like, you know, so, but, and so, tongue clicks, and so on. I will give a report at the end of the meeting.
Next, our general evaluator, which is Jean. Do you?
And we'll hear from you at the end.
Oh, and you'll hear from
Later.
Jean later.
So next to you just introduced.
Oh, okay. And then our greeter / joke master is Jyoti Raj. Now we will move on to our prepared speeches for tonight. Our first is Terry Harnish. Terry shall share her ghostly adventure during the summer of...
Actually, it's me.
It's the,
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry.
it's Jean.
Yeah.
It's Jean.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a intro that you wanted me to...
Oh, you know? Yes, I do.
Subject, purpose?
Yeah.
Well, our first prepared speech tonight will be from our president, Jean Symington Craig.
And first you want to call the evaluator to read the objectives.
Oh,
What I'm
okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. First, I'd like to call Jyoti Raj to read the objectives for the speech for tonight.
Mhm.
Shake his hand and then turn it over to him,
Okay.
and he'll call us.
No.
You won't?
We're having a Toastmasters.
Fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home,
It doesn't say that.
Jean Symington Craig is doing her, what speech is this about? The speech?
Innovative Planning Workbook, and the title of the speech is The Word is Here. Do you have one of those? Yes, you don't.
She is doing innovative planning, and the title of one is here. And the purpose of this speech is the following. The purpose of this project is for the member to present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, and apply the feedback to a second speech. The purpose of the speech is for the member to demonstrate that he or she has applied the feedback received from his or her first speech. So she's gonna apply the feedback received in her first speech to this speech. And that is the main goal or the purpose of the speech. Thank you. Let me welcome Jean Symington
Well,
Craig.
what we're doing now, we're gonna, so you can
Oh,
welcome me up
sorry.
again.
Sure.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
it's gotta get practiced a little bit. I know,
Protocol.
I know.
Thank you, Jyotira.
Oh, no.
Okay.
And now, for our first speech for tonight, we have Jean Symington Craig with her speech, "The Warden is Here." Thank you, Jean.
I was sitting in the front row last October 6th, a Saturday, talking to Mary Schulte, the area director and a first-time visitor, when I heard in the back some murmuring and rustling. Looking around, I saw men moving aside, and I saw guards lining up outside the door. Suddenly, a small, blonde woman, kind of this size, walked into the room. I leaned over to Mary and I whispered excitedly, "The warden is here." Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, let me give you some background. I am the club liaison and the volunteer coordinator for Conscious Communicators Toastmasters, which is located in the maximum security unit for men at the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison. This club has an excellent track record. Just for example, it has received the President's Distinguished Award 4 times in the last 6 years. Pretty amazing. When we arrive, we go through metal detectors, we get patted down, we go through sliding metal doors, and we're escorted by guards everywhere. The prison environment is harsh, and we have some additional challenges on top of that. First, the men do not have access to the internet or to email. Toastmasters, like everything else, has moved more and more into the digital arena. Consequently, as the club liaison, I often find myself creating workarounds for the members and the club vis-a-vis Toastmasters International, and I'm going to call that TI. Another challenge is the shorter amount of meeting time overall in a given year. The club members only get to meet first and third Saturdays of the month. So they get less than half the time that outside clubs who meet weekly have to achieve personal goals and club goals with Toastmasters. Probably the biggest challenge is money, covering dues. The men have, well, they get about pennies an hour. They contribute $1 a month towards their dues. Everything else has to come from one fundraiser that the facility lets us put on. It's not me, it's them. And also outside dues, people that we solicit funds from. So we're always looking for dues money. It's challenging, but what brings us all back is both the volunteers and the members is the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, support each other, and grow as people and as a club. Back to that October Saturday. The warden is here. Since I've been a volunteer in 2011, warden had never attended one of our regular meetings. Patty Wachtendorf is the current warden. She's retiring this month, and she was also the first female ever appointed at this facility in 177 years. This is before the Civil War. When she was appointed in 2015, the early rumors were that she was going to be very strict on discipline and was possibly even hostile towards self-development programs. If only she would attend a meeting. As it turned out, the members on the inside had invited her to come, and she had decided to take them up on it. I was thrilled. I introduced myself. Thank you very much for coming. I felt very honored that she was here spending the time with us. She went and sat down in the middle of a bunch of very burly inmates. All the guards in the back start to lean forward a little bit and make sure they're paying attention because she is a prime target. And the meeting began. The room was electrified. The energy was palpable. We had 4 speeches, 4 evaluators, and a number of excellent table topics. The warden even got up and gave a table topics on why co-ed facilities would not be that helpful. Sneaky table topics master. At the break, I pointed out to her some of the club challenges. I also pointed out the achievement ribbons that this club had earned. She said, and this was so sweet for me to hear, I quote, "I am seeing guys smiling here whom I've never seen smiling before." She had seen the magic of Toastmasters for building safe, supportive community for everyone, regardless of background or circumstances. Being a Toastmaster, we recognize, is about becoming a bigger, better, more effective person, which benefits us and also benefits those of us, those that are around us. If the goal of incarceration is also to rehabilitate, not just punish, then the Toastmasters mission and the Toastmasters educational program runs absolutely parallel to that goal and enhances that overall outcome for men serving time. Just a little anecdote at the end. Recently, one of the members, longtime members, came up and told me that it had been overheard that the warden was saying to a member, "You should try Toastmasters." Yes! The warden's heart and mind. We got it. Done deal. I know, too bad she's leaving. I have a plan for her.
Now I come up now, right?
May I
Yeah.
have an evaluation,
Yeah.
please?
All right.
Thank you.
Seriously, we gotta, yeah, a little softer. I love firm handshakes, a little softer.
Okay.
Whoa. I've already got one, challenge.
Thank you, Jean. Now we will have 2 minutes to evaluate Jean's speech. All right, next we have a speech from Terry Harnish.
Could you pass this to Erin, please?
And now I'd like to call up Dan Craig to read the objectives of Terry's speech.
Just a question.
Yeah, there's
What
an
order
intro.
are we going to do the intro versus the objectives?
The objectives first, then the intro.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Tonight, I'm going to evaluate Terry Harnish. She's in project number 5 in the storytelling manual. It's an advanced manual. This project is called Bringing History to Life. The objectives are to understand the purpose of stories about historical events or people, to use storytelling skills developed in the preceding projects to tell a story about a historical event or person. Terry's going to give a speech called My Mysterious Adventure with Josephine. I'm going to ask Erin, our Toastmasters, to come back up and give her introduction.
All right, Terry shall share her ghostly adventure during the summer of '64 with us now. Ghosts have a long Ghosts have long been a part of Nova Scotia of the Crichton legacy, beginning in 1749 when James Crichton swam ashore at the age of 14. Be prepared to listen and learn about Josephine's ghostly presences. Please join me in welcoming Terry Harnish with her speech, The Mysterious Adventure with Josephine.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and invited guests and those at home. I want to quickly give you a definition of a ghost. What is your definition of a ghost?
An insubstantial spirit that I can see
You can see.
and speak with.
Wow. I think we'd all have a different definition, but Dr. Helen Creighton, my great aunt, her definition was something soft, knocking on nothing. And when you think about it, that's what they do. They knock on nothing. In the summer of 1964, I was going into grade 11 at Chapel Memorial School. I was desperately keen to have a pair of contact lenses. My mother, Lois, on Friday afternoon would go to Mabel Robinson's hair salon, and her best buddy, Helen Bringalow, would be there as well. Helen was not well. She was aging and she had severe phlebitis. Phlebitis is a situation with your legs, and she couldn't move. So every morning her dear husband, Ed, would carry her down the 3 stairwells and lie her on the couch. And he would go off to Halifax to do his insurance business. She couldn't be left alone, so good old Mama said, "Guess what? Terry wants to get contacts. She can be the nurse companion." And I went, oh my God. Because you see, the house, the bivouac, was like the house in Gone with the Wind. The white, long driveway. The balconies that just escalated. It was just the most magnificent house in the entire village. But word was that Josephine McLean Druin, who died in the house, it was her wedding gift, and died in the house, would be patrolling, and she particularly didn't like young people. So I was very alarmed to think that I would have to be there every morning from 8 until 6 to take care of Helen. I remember the first morning walking all the way from the shop club, going up that long driveway, getting to the big oak door. And I had been told by Nellie Corkum, who ran the grocery store, that the carpet inside the drawer, the Persian carpet, if she didn't like you, would turn to a sea of boiling blood. Well, that scared the daylights out of me. And I thought, Lordy, Lordy, please, when I knock on that door, let Helen say, "Come in," and please don't turn it to a sea of boiling blood. So I waited very nervously, knocking very gingerly on the door at just before 8. And again, she yelled, "Come in." So I opened the door. I looked at the carpet thinking, oh, please, dear God, don't turn to a sea of boiling blood. I entered. Nothing happened. And also I'd been told by Nellie that if she didn't like you, the brass candlesticks in the dining room would be hurled through the air, the candles would snap in two, and she'd hit you on the head with the candlesticks. I was very, very worried. So my first day, I learned the lay of the land. It was a magnificent house. My responsibility was to make sure she got 3 meals a day and feed these wonderful bird feeders. In the basement there were the huge drums, sunflower seeds, mixed seeds, and I would go down with big cans and it was my job to fill the bird feeders. And that was part and parcel of my job. We managed to get through the first few days, And I arrived one Friday morning, and we had wall to wall like this, broadloom, but there was a mound in the middle of the living room floor. And Helen said, "What's that mound under the carpet?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And she said, "Stand on it." So I got up and I jumped up and down. It didn't move. She said, "What do you think it is?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Sadie Dory's going to come to clean. We'll take off the baseboards. We'll move all the Jacobean oak furniture with the marble tops. We'll have to pull up the carpeting and we'll have to check." So sure enough, dear old Sadie came. We just did that, and guess what? What was under the carpeting? Bird seed. A big mound of bird seed. Square in the middle of the room, under this carpeting that had probably been there for 50, 60 years. And now how, with the Jacobean oak furniture and the baseboard, does bird seed manage to get from the basement under the carpeting? So we vacuumed it up, and I didn't think another thing about it. There was a picture in the den of an Irish setter dog staring at you. And I used to go to the picture every morning and say, "Good morning, Josephine. We are going to be good friends. You will treat me with tender, loving care. You won't scare me." And I would back away. Ted, the son, came home from Nashwaaksis, New Brunswick, and wanted to go spring fishing. So he said to his mother, "Ma, where are my waders?" Waders are the hip rubber boots. And she said, "Darling, they're in the attic, 7 stories up. Go up and get them off a nail." So Ted proceeded to go up, and all of a sudden he started screaming, "Terry, Terry, get up here right now!" And I thought, what in the name of God has gone wrong with him? So I went up and up and up, and I stood there and I said, "Ted, what is your problem, boy?" And he said, "Look at the waders." I said, "What am I looking at?" He said, "Look in the waders." And they were filled to the very brim with birdseed. There wasn't a drop on the ground anywhere. There was no evidence that it had been brought by a mouse. I mean, how would a mouse get from the basement 7 stories down, all the way up, fill the brim, fill the waders to the brim? So I got 6 cardboard cartons. We tipped the waders over, and Ted went off fishing. The ultimate came when Ed, the husband, rang and said, "I have a late meeting. I think I'm going to stay in Halifax overnight. You have to have a sleepover." And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't do sleepovers with a ghost." And he said, "Please, I'll pay you extra." I said, "I don't think any money could satisfy me." And he said, "Please, Terry, you've got to do this." Well, she wasn't very big, and I only weighed 90 pounds. And I had to get her, my arm around one arm. She held on to the banister. We finally got upstairs. And as we were approaching her bedroom, I said, "Do you have a pair of bed socks? No, do you have a hot water bottle?" She said, "I always use the hot water bottle." I said, "Do you have bed socks?" "Oh," she said, "I got a pair as a wedding gift 57 years ago, but they're locked in a trunk in the attic." And I said, "Oh God, I'm going to have the coldest feet." So I got her ready for her bed. We did our prayers, cleaned her teeth, brushed her hair. I went into her dressing room to a little chaise lounge, and I got down to say my prayers. I pulled back the blankets, and what do you think I found in bed?
Birdseed.
Bed socks. It was then I knew I had a friend in Josephine. But years had gone by, and I hadn't been back to the house. And when I moved back from Iowa in '95, I was going to have my first storytelling festival. And the new owners, Viv was 92, and her husband Graham was 78. So I thought I better make a call before I tell this story again. And so I went and I said, "How has life been since you moved into the bivouac?" And she said, "Well, it's very unusual." I said, "What do you mean unusual?" She said, "When we first moved in, I have a separate room, which is Helen's old room, and my husband Graham has Ed's old bedroom. So she said one morning, I said, darling, this has to stop. And he said, but my beloved, what are you talking about? And she said, you cannot slide down that banister one more time. And he said, I'm far too old. She said, you fall. When you get down to the bottom, you hit the ground and you die. And he said, it's not me, it must be Josephine. So about 10 years ago, in the middle of a raging blizzard, the house mysteriously caught on fire. Sadie, the cleaning lady, had been long replaced, but someone had come in and dusted, and I think that the lamp on the table fell onto the sofa and set it on fire. Everything was destroyed. Josephine got her revenge.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Now we will have 2 minutes to evaluate Terry's speech. Timer, which speaker is qualified?
Jean qualified, Terry did not qualify.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Timer. What? Oh, sorry. So now please welcome our general evaluator, right? And that's you, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Jean.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't even notice it when I do it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm surprised. I'm impressed that you're actually getting me to say, dial it down.
We have to do who does
Excuse me,
this.
I'm just gonna let it hang out here a little while it's recovering. All right, Judge Rod, could you hand me the agenda there? Yeah. All right, so now we have 2 evaluators that we're going to want to hear from for our 2 speakers. As a general evaluator, I will be calling up our first evaluator, which is Jyoti Raj Adikardi.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, I'm evaluating Jean Symington Craig. I'll follow this evaluation form. So this is what I should do as per this manual. Let's start from clarity. The point goes from 1 to 5. 5 is the best, 1 is the least. The clarity, she is exemplary speaker as usual. It's very easy to understand. I'll give her 5 for that. On vocal variety, I'll give her 4 on that. 5 is the highest, 4 is the second highest. She has a lot of vocal varieties, but I wanted to see much more than what she did because she is a very, very good speaker and I need more. That's good, but I need more from her. Eye contact, yes, she was the one of the thing that was recommended or that was in the evaluation from the last evaluator, and she incorporated that very nicely. I could see she was looking at each of the audience, and audience was also alert this time. So I think that's one of the reasons. I also noticed that most of the time audience were looking at the table. I don't know what is there, and that will be a little difficult for the speaker to convey what exactly they want to say. 5, eye contact. Gestures, yeah, that was big gestures, a lot of moments, a lot of things. I give 5 on that. Audience awareness, that she was very aware that to each and every audience, that 5. Comfort level, that I give 4, because she was very aware. I felt that she was aware that how the response is coming from the audience. So I felt in some point that she was a little aware that his audience are responding how they are responding. So here I recommend that it's good to see the response, but good to focus on what you are conveying, then how audience is responding. Interest, yes, 5, fully engages audience with well-constructed content. It was very well constructed. Applied feedback, yes, you applied whatever was previously recommended. Feedback from the first speech. The only suggestion is a little bit of vocal variety. There was enough vocal variety, but I want more from you. And I want a solid or the concrete conclusion. So the last couple of lines were actually what audience is gonna take home from this. So that is my suggestion. So what was that actually about? We understood everything, but what actually I'm taking home from this? So what is my take? So that is the things. And one more thing is, like, you're speaking very good, and I need more of this speaking from heart. Some of the times of the feelings, a little bit of, if you can incorporate more feelings on that, that would be great. Thank you.
Who's next?
Oh, it's me.
Oh.
Thank you. Multiple hat meetings. Thank you, Jyoti Raj. Our next evaluator is Dan Craig, evaluating Terry's speech. No, okay, so let me just say, now everybody's being really careful and like they're going kind of wish-washy.
Like the dead fish.
No, it's a controlled, have the thumbs hit, the web hits, that feels really
And don't
good.
do the,
And no, we don't need to do any creative, bump and, that, but, and then just like that, so that's perfect.
We'll practice
See,
at
we've
home.
got everyone nervous now because of.
who opens the door?
My hand's still red though,
Madam General Evaluator, how would you like to run the camera?
Oh, all right,
That'd be
we'll
handy.
do so, okay.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Thank you, Toastmasters. Thank you, Terry. I'm going to go through the evaluation points in the manual.
Excuse me, one thing here.
Uh-huh.
Put a pause here. I'm supposed to be evaluating the evaluators, so I've just screwed up. So I need to have someone else be on the.
So just look in the viewfinder, and am I
Okay.
kind of centered here?
You are so centered, baby.
Okay,
Yes.
just leave it. Is the red light on?
Yes.
Okay. I'll edit all that out.
Just don't move around. Don't move around a lot.
Yes.
Stay on the
Yeah,
next.
yeah.
Okay.
The first question in the evaluation guide, was the plot of the story clear? I said, yes, it was. The story was told with very colorful and lovely descriptive language from the very beginning. For example, as Terry approached the beautiful old house, she just painted a picture, a word picture for us of what a magnificent place it was. That type of descriptive language led us through the various anecdotes in the story, led us to follow along the plot. The second question, to what degree did the speaker succeed in building the story to a climax? I felt that the story consisted mostly of anecdotes. There was the different anecdotes about the bird seed, the bed socks, so on. In the end, Josephine apparently burned down the house, which was definitely an ending. But I didn't feel like that quite gave us a climax that had been built to. My suggestion would be just a bit of a transition sentence there at the end before you talk about how Josephine got her revenge. Just say, she did this, she did this, she did this, she did this, and then finally she burned, and that would give us the feeling that we built to the end. How did the speaker develop character? We learned about Josephine indirectly from the various things that she did, the various episodes about birdseed in the waiters, and that sort of thing. Did the speaker make effective use of description and dialogue in telling the story? Yes, just beautiful. All the way through. Just colorful language. You could just see it in your mind, all the settings that were being described. There was some good dialogue throughout. I particularly noticed it when Terry and Ted were talking about the birdseed and the waiters. That was a good back and forth of dialogue. Did you gain greater insight into the historical event or person the speaker was telling about? Yes, we learned a great deal about the house and the inhabitants and the mysterious goings-on attributed to Josephine, and about ghosts in general in Nova Scotia. And finally, how effectively did the speaker use vocal variety while telling her story? Did the speaker display any distracting gestures or mannerisms? Very effective vocal variety, good variations in pitch and volume was what I noticed. And no, there were no distracting gestures. In fact, the gestures were very natural and expressive and added a great deal to the telling of the story. We all enjoyed it very much. Next time, just try to get it in the time, and that would be even better. Madam General Evaluator.
Fantastic.
Oh, great handshake. I feel like I need to okay, there we go. Thank you. Mr. Timer, please tell us which evaluators qualified. Just the ones that qualified.
Dan qualified.
Okay. Okay, so we don't need to vote on that. All right, so speaker, okay. Thank you, Mr. Timer. We can go through our reports now. And Mr. Timer, before you get too settled, would you give us your timer's report, please?
Tonight I have only timed 2 speakers and 2 evaluators. Jean's speech was 6 minutes and 50 seconds. Terry spoke 10 minutes and 15 seconds. Jyoti, as the evaluator, spoke 3 minutes and 35 seconds. And Dan spoke, with all the ins and outs, a total of 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Can you give me your 5 seconds?
Stand or evaluator.
Okay, great. I think before I move to the next person, I am just going to say once again that we do have some people out of town and they're otherwise occupied, and so we're showing great resilience tonight. And fulfilling our roles and moving ourselves down the field. And with that, let's ask our grammarian D. Stoffer for his report.
I don't think I saw anybody use the word of the day. I may be wrong in that.
She just
Jean just used it, yeah. Thank you. I didn't, was thinking about this. Okay. Let's see here. Actually, everybody had good use of language. I didn't hear any tongue clicks or stutters or anything of that nature. A couple words I liked that Terry used: boiling blood, and Josephine the ghost, and Jean did use the word resilience. That's my report.
By the way, just so the timer doesn't feel like his job is over, we usually would let you time these little speeches, so in case you're doing that?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, okay. So keep an eye on it, so.
I'll put the red light on if someone goes over.
You what?
I will put the red light on if someone goes over.
Okay, good. All right. our odd counter, Peter Armstrong.
Tonight, the use of filler words. D had 8 uhs or ahs and 1 so. Theta, I didn't hear any filler words. Aaron, didn't hear them. Jyoti Raj, 5 uhs or ahs. Terry, 1 so. Jean, clean. And Dan, 2 uhs or ahs and 1 you know. And that is my report.
Looks like we have a joke from our joke master.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here's a joke. 3 friends all died and went to heaven at the same time. St. Peter met them at the gates and said to one of them, "Welcome to heaven. Here is your reward." After saying that, St. Peter immediately handcuffed him to an extremely unattractive woman. "St. Peter, why is this my heavenly reward?" the man asked. St. Peter replied, "When you were 5, you killed a bird with a stone." St. Peter then turned to the next guy and did the same exact thing for the same reason. He was asked the same question and the answer was the same. Finally, he turned to a third guy and said, "Welcome to heaven. Here is your reward." The third man was immediately handcuffed to a beautiful girl. Extremely happy, the man walked off. The other 2 men who had stuck around to see what their friend's fate was were outraged. How come he gets a beautiful girl and we were stuck with these ugly women? We can name a few things that he did that were worse than ours. The St. Peter said, "When she was 5, she killed a bird with a stone."
Ah, all right. Touche. Let me get my clock here. Yep, things are never quite what you think. Oh yeah, this we have this too.
Pretty
Okay,
talented
good.
with the stones.
All right, general evaluator. My job is to evaluate the evaluators. Right off, I have to confess, because I was so enamored and listening to Jyoti Raj evaluating my speech, that I did not take notes. But I will say that he was specific. So these are the positive points. He went through, he looked at the evaluation criteria for my speech. He followed them and gave feedback to me, which is very important. So it's specific. He also indicated that I had reasonably fulfilled the requirement to apply feedback from last week to this week. My one suggestion to Jyoti Raj is, we learned last week, I believe that was last week when we pointed out that a 3 means it was done properly. So let's not be afraid. Okay, I know, we like to get the highest number, but let's keep our baselines a little lower. So a 3 or a 4 is really doing extremely well, greater than, and 5 is just, your mouth is hanging open. So let's not be afraid to put down a number that's perhaps lower, or feel that the person is not feeling supported in some way, because we don't want grade inflation. Those of us that have been students know what that's like. So that would be my one thing, would be to just we all start ratcheting it down, but Jyoti Raj gives me the opportunity to talk about that. Your timing, 3 to 4? Okay. Dan, evaluating Terry, gave a lot of strong comments, favorable comments. He did use the evaluation criteria as well. He did something that I really liked when he talked about giving a transition sentence at the end that wrapped a lot of things up, and he gave it an example of what that sentence would have looked like. And so that is 3 times more helpful than just saying, I'd like to see a transition sentence at the end. So I really like the examples. He did give a suggestion, try to get it in on time. My suggestion to Dan, I was a little puzzled because I have done that project before, and I wasn't totally sold on the fact that it was a historical, where you go and you find something that's happened that is from the past, a little more well-known. Something, some king or inventor or something that is, as opposed to our own history, our own personal history. That's the way I view that project. It's just my opinion, and I felt that actually you could have brought that in as an angle of, if you were going to do this project again, Terry, you might want to consider actually doing a little bit of research on some of those famous stories that have happened in the past and give us a presentation with those. That was my one suggestion. I am going to finish ahead of time on my evaluate the evaluators. Let's see, so now so thank you very much. I will hand off to our Toastmaster, and then I'm going to come back up and we're going to do some club business.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, do you want to hit the light?
Well, where are the ribbons? I probably should have grabbed those.
Right here.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and that is good thinking though. Okay, so, oh,
Is that better?
it's a little better. It's better. See how your
little-
fingers, see all that red right there? So let's see if we can not have that. Okay, good. Oh yes, it's the underside. It's these fingers.
You gotta do it like this.
Yeah, these
You
fingers.
gotta-
I'm just, this is so good. Where else can you get your handshake customized? Customized.
We evaluate everything in this club.
Yes,
You have to shake hands the way they do in the hood.
no, that's another, yeah. Oh, believe me, at the prison, we've done some really.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Now we will present the meeting, or the awards for tonight's meeting. First is our best speaker, which I would like to present to Jean Symington. Thank you very much. And our best evaluator is Dan Craig.
Out of frame.
And now I'd like to call back up our club president, Jean Symington Craig.
Okay, great, alrighty, good. If we could just pass these around, let's see here, a couple. And I need one, everyone's got one, okay. Good, is that good? Okay.
Is there one more?
Yeah. All right. Okay, we'll get to this in just a moment. I'm going to ask all heads to rise up from reading them so I can see eyeballs. Ah, the power when that happens. Okay. Tonight we are going to talk about being a club officer. It's that time of year. And we look for changing out of people who have been officers and incoming new officers. I'm just going to give you a couple of thoughts about that. One of the Toastmasters promises is, one of those lines that they have in there is that you promise to serve as an officer when asked to do so. When I first became an officer, I had been a Toastmaster for 1 year, and they asked me to be president. And I said, what? I have no idea. So here's my thought process. I went, I don't know what to do. So we're gonna answer that, because that may also be going through your mind. No worries. We have books that everyone gets when they become a new officer that indicates your role, your duties in your role. And so you can just follow that and take a look at that. That's one thing. Second thing is we have officer training twice a year. And we go somewhere, it's usually our division, and we have officer training. And so you get to meet other people that have these roles. You get officer breakouts where you actually can delve into the nitty-gritty of your role. It's actually very good. It's assumed that you don't know anything. So if you're thinking, well, I don't know what to do, that's the normal state, is that you don't know what to do, but you will learn as you go through the year. The third piece for getting knowledge is that you have your fellow club members. Generally, we have someone who's just had that position, who's here, who can mentor you, you can ask questions of, and go from there. So it is a learning process. So that answered my question, I don't know what to do. Next thing was, I don't have enough time. I have no time. I have no time. So what do we do with that? Unfortunately, Toastmasters officership is not a full-time position. It's not like your job, your day job. It's meant to be for people who are busy with other things in their life and fitting this in as an additional support for the club. My feeling is that it does, work expands to fill your time. So busy people are usually going to be pretty competent with managing their time, but I just encourage you to not let the time get in the way, because you will get faster and smoother with it as you continue with the role. The last thing would be, well, can't somebody else do it? Like, why me? I don't want to do it. It's like, so the answer to that is, really, this is it. This is our club. And if you value the club and you value what it's doing for you, then you have a type of responsibility and an obligation to step up and help it meet its goals and support members and be here for the community. So when we used to have a larger club, you could generally say, well, you're an officer for a year, and then you could be off for a year, and then you come back. But nowadays, we're pretty much just rotating around, and people are learning, and we're pretty much just taking care of it constantly. The good news is that being an officer, this is kind of the personal benefits section, so there's the reasons why you would want to for supporting and your obligation and your responsibility like that, but then there's also the personal benefits. And the personal benefits comes from the fact that you get to work with a great group of people, you get to have fun with those people, you get to figure it out together, and you really do develop a different quality to your backbone. I'm always talking about backbones in Toastmasters. Toastmasters develops a certain backbone just standing and talking to people. Well, having that officership and being able to give, it's almost like a leadership and a communication and a service component. Having that service component does something different to your backbone. Anyone here have a volunteer job that they've done with? So you know what that's like, giving service and giving back and making a difference. And it's about learning to be a leader. Nobody here is getting paid. Peter does not have to, I can't say to Peter, Peter, you have to do what I say, or, I'm going to have to fire you. And then Peter gets all nervous. No, I have to convince Peter, which isn't always easy, because Peter has his own, he's a volunteer, I'm a volunteer, but I have to convince Peter and talk to him, and we have to come to a consensus, and that's how things get done. So it's much more challenging, and it's actually much more skill building if you can be a leader of a group that is not like a work group where the people are required to pay attention to you. All right, so those are responsibilities, obligations, those are personal benefits. I am just going to run through, you've got these pieces of paper. So normally what we do is in May, we want to identify what are your top 3 officer positions that you would like to be considered for. So what you would do is you would read, these are just these little phrases right here. We do this every year. You look at them and you decide, oh, well, if I'm gonna be an officer, this would be my first choice, this would be my second choice, this would be my third choice. Normally we do that, I do this talk at the beginning or first half, and you guys have till the end of the meeting, and then you give them to me as you walk out. Because of the way we're doing it today, and because I just didn't quite, I wanted to give you guys a little more time to think and really consider what I'm talking about. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give you those forms, and then I'd like you to email to me, first initial last name at Gmail, so it's J Symington Craig at gmail.com. Your 1, 2, and 3. Normally the immediate past president takes care of the officer selection process. Our immediate past president got married and moved to Minnesota. That was Dennis Comez. Remember him?
Oh, yeah, Dennis.
So I am doing this. I'm doing this for, in that role. I cannot be president, so the president is the only position that cannot be a repeating position. Other positions can be a repeat, but that's just to put that out there. I was going to
Are we
have,
allowed to just give these now instead of waiting?
you could, if you know, you could, but let's do it after the meeting breaks.
Okay, great.
Okay. What other things do I want to say about this? I'd say the Vice President of Education is the hardest job, even more than President, because it is something that requires consistency. These agendas that we get out every week, that's coming from Peter. It is something that you can organize and you can kind of control it. We do have a technology that we use, Easy Speak. You've all seen those emails come in. And Peter is prepared to train people on that. But it's also about helping people achieve personal goals. So that's one right there. President is just the overall person who is in front of the meeting, chairs the executive council. We do have officer meetings, that is a responsibility. So if you look at the roles, there's generally things that you do outside the meeting and things you do within the meeting. And I guess I'm just going to let you take a look at the form without going through them all. You can also find them on Pathways. When you're in, you can go in and look at, they have some initial material on what the different roles are and what they do. And I'm just going to suggest you go take a look, because I read through all those and I felt they were pretty accurate. So let's see. The Vice President, the Sergeant of Arms, we do want to get this a little smoother here setting up. I think today was even better than it has been. But that is someone who can consistently be here on time. I'm just going to, maybe I should just, I'm sort of trying to, walk on both sides of the fence of how we've done this in the past. And I want you to have information, but I don't want to get repetitive. Does anyone have any immediate questions about
When does the term start?
Good question. It starts July 1st.
No, so a couple months.
Yeah, July 1st. Ideally what we have, this is what we do, is we have our officers identified by the end of May. And then that first officer meeting in June, which is always the first Tuesday of the month, we have old officers and new officers attend. And we have a little bit of a handoff and everyone kind of gets clear on where we are. And then the next month is when the new officers fully take over. president, so I am the current president, I will be the immediate past president next year. I'm also an unofficial, well, I'm an official member, but I don't vote on the executive council. And I'm here to be a resource. And I've done that quite a bit, and we can do that, as well.
I'd like to step forward for both VP of Membership and VP of PR.
Okay, well, you've got that written as a 1 and a 2?
Yes?
Do you have a 3?
No.
Okay, try to think of a 3, because I want everybody to have 1, 2, or 3, because it's going to be based on the needs of the club and what I'm getting from other people. Try to go for the highest numbers, Terry, for everyone. So now the VP of E is also, it's kind of an interesting position right now because of the pathways. So it's really having to be for, now, just Terry, since you raised your hand, you're out in my mind, unless something has changed, you're out of town now till August?
I'm leaving by the 20th of May, and I'll be back on August the 7th.
To be on for
Okay.
3 months.
So you're, well, no, just
Two-
really
two.
1 month. Because she'll be gone July, the year starts July 1st.
Oh, I see.
So she's not an officer now, so
So
we're
yeah,
okay
yeah.
until July 1st. So.
Do
and
we still have meetings all summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let me, are you gonna see Janet? Do you
I have
think?
no idea.
Why?
50/50, are you gonna see
I
Janet?
could see her,
You could see her.
I mean, I could go, yeah, she need to,
No, well, you better give it to me.
Yeah,
okay.
If you want it related
Yeah,
to that.
I want you to explain.
I'll give it to her.
okay.
Now, I'm gonna be in Atlanta next week, and so I'm gonna be wanting to see emails trickling in. And I keep a little grid, and I mark down who I've gotten them from and the positions like that.
So we're gonna
across.
send you an email on this?
Yeah, normally I'd have you hand those in, and if you have them tonight, great. But if you want to think about it a little bit more, just send me an email, say, hi, it's Jyoti Raj, and my first is this, my second is that, my third is this.
Okay.
Okay? And speaking of Janet, so first of all, before I move on to that, yes?
How often do we have executive meetings?
Once a month. It's been
Usually
the
the
first Tuesday of the month. And we have been doing it, it's a little bit of a, you gotta get here, but we try to do it about 6:50. And then we wrap up at 7:30.
And all of these people go to that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All officers, and we vote on things, and then, and you can see there's a variety of roles there. So, any other questions? I love questions. Did you have a question, or are you just
No,
waving your
no.
form? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So, good. So thank you for that. Thank you, just thank you for stepping up. It really means a lot for us, for this club. I have people that thank us. I have people that thank me even though they're not involved with Toastmasters, but have been Toastmasters way in the past, Jyoti Raj. They're just like, it's so great that you keep that going, and that's like going, and so it's a real resource for the community. You really are doing a service. Next week, Dan and I are out of town, and we can't use this building for that because it is secure, and Dan has responsibility. And
So no meeting.
What's the deal?
no.
What's,
We are having a meeting.
what's the,
Just a second. I'll give you the stuff, because I think you're gonna, so Janet has volunteered to have the meeting at her house. And she's somewhere in town. I was hoping she'd be here, but
I could
she
give
will
you the
send an,
instructions. How to get there.
No, I know where she
I'm
lives.
sure they'll send out an
Low.
email.
We should send that.
Anyway, if
Yeah.
you go to below between North Court and
Me.
Main, right?
Why
Between
don't,
North Court and Main,
okay.
it's a
it's
judge.
right
Well,
in the middle.
So what I'm gonna ask, so that's good, that gives me a good, so it's right down there in town.
Yeah.
You can just head right in. So but I want Janet to send an email out, so watch for that. But that's the deal, okay? And if Janet hasn't responded, get a hold of Veda, because Veda knows where it is.
Well, we should send out an email.
I'm telling Janet needs to do it, yes.
At the end of the meeting, we should decide what minimum number of materials should be taken
That's true.
for
Oh,
that
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah. Really minimum, because it's a little,
We don't wanna
gonna
take-
schlep
yeah.
too much space.
Maybe just forms and stuff that we
But
copy
you
off
guys
the
can-
internet.
Maybe the timing light and some evaluation forms, that might be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Where
Yeah.
are our good timing lights that disappeared on
Oh, they-
January the 29th?
They were found.
Where?
We've got
There's been
them
an executive decision that these timing lights are easier to use at this point.
Yeah. And in fact, honestly, I'm a little concerned about traveling, glass and breaking and stuff. So, it could be, we could, just
We
for
could
one
do the other
meeting,
one.
use the cards.
Well, the other thing is the other timing light
Yeah.
is
Take that
travelable,
right here.
so
Yeah.
we could,
I mean,
There is the other timeline.
I could take all those
It's
things.
here.
Okay, so we're gonna remember, because we have this thing, is who's got the timeline. So Joe, Veda's gonna have it. I just say it, the conscious
It's all gonna
communicators,
go to
we
the-
use cards.
It's all gonna
It does
go
work,
to,
it
it's
does
all
work.
gonna go to Janet's house.
Okay, okay.
So we need
Yeah.
the Janice next week.
So can we put you as the overseer of the materials?
Yeah.
We could just take 3 cards over,
Yeah.
red, green, and yellow.
We could, but we've got that
Okay.
packaged up
I
thing.
think email should come from you because Janet might not have my email ID.
Well, I
Well, if she sends it to members,
Yeah, everyone.
Members
yeah, you
Act.
can send it.
Members-
You can send it from Easy Speak.
Yeah,
no,
You
well,
have to use a
or
special address, but yes.
just the regular, if I want to email the club, I just go to my regular email and I put in members-7515, which is our number, at
Oh, that will come
toastmastersclubs.org. We should all have that. If you're having trouble remembering that, we have a tattoo service. We can get that put right on the inside of your arm, so it's always there, available.
I have it, but what is it again?
It's, all right, members, plural, hyphen, 7515 at Toastmasters Clubs.org.
Not easy speak.
.org.
if you've ever gotten
No,
an
easy
email
speak.
from that, you can return to that email.
Yeah, you can, so.
Gmail.
Toastmasters
Hyphen.
_ clubs?
Hyphen.
No, no.
Toastmasters.
All right, who wants to read it correct, who's got it? I feel a needle coming your way, Peter.
Nobody else knows.
It's in my
All right,
phone.
here we go. Members
I
hyphen
got that.
7515
Yeah.
at, and then,
Toastmasters, got that.
and there's no additional punctuation. Toastmastersclubs.org. Now, if you do .com, it's not gonna go. Which is something I've had to catch myself.
It'll
Perfect.
point back.
And that'll go to everybody. What we would ask is when you do those emails, put your name in there, like you sent it, blah, 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 and put your name. Because otherwise it's a little tricky, you have to do some tricks to find out who sent it. Okay? Alrighty, do we have any speeches for next week, Peter?
We do not.
Aha,
It's wide open.
All topics.
no, we're past the all topic thing. So we have some icebreakers that need to happen. And I'm looking at Veda and I'm looking at Jyoti Raj.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so Jyoti Raj is down,
For next week?
Yeah, I
Ready to
speak
go?
from
Okay.
dynamic leadership.
dynamic leadership,
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be ready for next week.
following week.
Where are Carmen?
Wait, we're in the middle of a following week. I'll be back and I would love to see this.
What's, let me look at.
That would be the 21st
The 21st of May?
May.
Okay.
Okay, good, you'll be off and running. So Veda's on the 21st,
I'm on 14th.
you're next week.
14th.
Mm-hmm. So you remember, you've got to go into Pathways, you've got to print your evaluation, give it to your evaluator. You can download it, you can email it to your evaluator, and then you can bring a printed copy to there, okay? Good. Well, there, yes. And then Art is planning, so let me just tell you, and then we got to go, let's see what time it is.
Is Art actually on the rolls as a member?
No, not yet. However, So here is what I'm doing in the background, the plan is, okay, so Art and Louis Denbaum is gonna be doing they're gonna be joining. So
Good.
that gets us up to 15. Louis has one or two projects left when he could get his advanced communicator silver, I think. But he had hernia surgery, and but you know, he's a
That's
go-getter.
over. That's
Yeah, that's over. So those two, so that gives us 15 members. We need 18 to be in the running for everything that we're working for our being distinguished or higher, and then also so that Ron and the guy from Conscious Communicators can get their DTMs. So I have 3 other people who I'm just gonna approach. We need your help, we need your reinstate money, and
Is
we'd
there-
love to have you join, but, participate, but
Is there formal like marketing pieces that we can post up and talk to people about?
Yeah, there's tons of stuff.
Tons of stuff and.
we actually have a box of stuff at our house
Let me
that we
see.
have, get this, okay, guess what's coming? This is what, I'm just wanting us to get our own momentum before we have everybody coming in here, because we are not gonna be attracting people with just all table topics
I know.
things. So we're not. But we have some buttons. And we're gonna talk to you about that, like little pins.
What
So
do they
you don't
say?
have to start the conversation. It'll just say, ask me about Toastmasters. I forget exactly what it says, but if you put that button on, then, people will just say, well, I'm asking, what is it? And there you are. You're off and running, you've got a conversation.
Where are
So,
the buttons?
we have them and they're coming.
Okay,
And it'll be fun.
okay.
Just have fun. So, Terry, I won't be here to see you say goodbye next week. You'll be here. Dan and I won't be here. But bon voyage. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the other side. And keep us, posted on who's on first and what's on second out there. And, Aaron, come up here.
Oh.
Come up here. Okay,
Oh, we got it.
yeah. I think we're...
We're running out of
No,
time.
we've got 2 minutes, which is just about what I thought we would have, even more. So Aaron, tell us what it was like to be up there and your competition and win.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I guess first, how many of us have participated in a district level event, whether not like a competition, but just going to something like that?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so quite a few people.
Just was an instructional event,
Sure.
not a speaking event.
Okay. So I guess for those of you that have gone, you kind of know, I guess what it's about. But it was awesome. I guess that's the only way I could really say it. When I was driving down there, I drove down there with Mary Schulte and Damon Fairfield, for those of you that know who they are. And when I was driving down there, the only thing that was on my mind was the competition, because it was actually, we drove down Friday and the competition was Friday evening. So that was kind of what my focus was on. And it was so nerve-wracking that I did not eat dinner, and I regretted that much later, because afterwards we were in the hospitality room having a couple drinks and stuff, and I was like, man, I really should have eaten dinner. But yeah, the competition was really good. There was a lot of people there, especially for Friday night. A lot of more people came Saturday, but a lot of people there Friday night. And it was a lot of really great speeches and some really tough competition out there. But then the nice thing about the fact that I competed on Friday was that, yeah,
You
it was
can
that
relax.
sigh of relief, and I was.
Enjoy the rest
I
of
would
it.
say that I actually enjoyed the just being there more than the competition. I mean, yeah, it was awesome to win and all that, but just being there and being around the people that make it all happen. I mean, this is the district level people. I mean, the only place above that is the international. And talking to people like Teresa Michelson, who's head of the program director, I believe is what her title is, and now she's the the district director, and then Mark Lotta, who is now the most recent past district, immediate past district director, yeah. I mean, awesome people, really great people to hang out with and talk to and pick their brains, and just being there with the people that make it all happen. It's kind of like the analogy of the glacier, where the club is pretty much the tip of the iceberg that you see above the surface, but then way underneath the surface you have the district level, and it's like that's the part that you don't see very often, especially if you're only coming to weekly club meetings. But it's such a huge part of it that you don't see, and it's, you know, if you ever get a little bit misguided and a little jaded with Toastmasters, go to a district event, because that will really pump you up and get you back into the swing of things. It was awesome.
Aaron, how many people might have been there?
About 100, I'd say.
Great.
Maybe 150.
Where was this again?
It was in Sioux City, Nebraska.
Oh, it was in Nebraska.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're right on
Sioux
the
City.
border.
Sioux City, it must be on the other side of the border from Sioux City, Iowa.
Yes, yep, those are.
Right,
Wow.
sister cities.
Mhm.
And did you have educational sessions on
Yeah.
Saturday?
Yeah, so Saturday they had the annual meeting where they voted on who the new officers were and just some other club business updates to the membership guidelines, and then yeah, there were a couple of educational sessions, and you know, they had the banquet in the evening, and that was where they finally presented the awards for, you know, Tall Tales winners and international speech winners and the club attendance award and stuff like that. And
And
then
who won the international?
There's no,
Yeah, who
it
was
doesn't,
it? Won the international, remember?
oh,
what was his name?
oh, the
He
series
was-
speech, yeah. Because you've gone as far as you can go, right?
Yeah, I'm done. But yeah, the international, and they're doing it differently this year, where they recorded the Tall Tale speeches, so those will be posted on the district website in the near future, which will be great. But they also recorded the international speeches, and because in the past, to my knowledge, that all of the winners, there's, you know, what, 91 districts or something like that, all of the winners had to go to a semifinal. Is that how I understand it? And then I guess the judges would have to watch all 91 speeches throughout the course of a week or something and decide on the top 10 that would go to the finals. Well, now they send recordings of all 91 winners, and then the judges have to watch those, and then they pick.
Video?
Yes. So based on the video, they pick the top 10 who go to the finals. So that's the video watching is the semifinals now. That was the way.
Are you on the video?
No.
No.
So the Tall Tales that I did, that's the
That's
district is
done.
the highest you can go. Yeah. So.
He is on a video though, and now did you decide if you're gonna take it to your colleagues, your work colleagues, and just say, hey,
Oh
break,
yeah. They're
during
gonna
break, we're gonna.
they're gonna see it, but I've asked, Teresa told me that they're trying to figure out how the best way to post it is on the district website, because they got to follow the guidelines for
Yeah, sure.
public media and all that. Hopefully in the next week or so they'll post it.
Have you gotten a hold of Andy Holman?
I've not. No, I wrote something that said that in the event that I would win, that they would send my information to Andy. Andy hasn't reached out. I know Andy on a personal level too, so I would imagine that he would reach out to me if he got something. But I'll see him tomorrow. I don't know if I could just mention it to him.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
yes,
not like it's
please do.
critical. It's not like it's critical that it happened right
Yeah.
at this instant, but still, I mean, given that you know Andy, love,
Yeah.
and he'll do a great story.
Yeah, well, and two, if we're looking to recruit new members, I
Do you
mean,
have an
having like
evaluation
something in the
form?
Fairfield Ledger.
No, I didn't do it. Sorry.
If you'd like to join Toastmasters.
The Fairfield source and the.
I was doing
weekly-
her.
The weekly reader, and now has Janice talked to you at all?
No.
Okay.
I
All right,
was
so
out
guys,
of the country.
so, Lee, thank you for this. Let me hand, this was not for you, this was because I made it go a little too
Dee?
long,
Oh,
so,
Do you have an
yeah.
evaluation for me?
We have to get Janet.
Hey, Jeffy.
Yes.
Uh,
All right,
Oh, the camera's
meeting
still on?
is adjourned.